Hi, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Above the Horizon interviews. Today, I have the honor and pleasure of talking to Dr. Will Tuttle again on creativity and expressing our life purposes through finding our creative gifts. Dr. Will Tuttle is a renowned author. He has written several books, including The World Peace Diet, The World Peace Way, Food for Freedom, Your Inner Islands, and a few more. And I'm excited to bring him on today. He is a amazing animal rights activist, an amazing author, and an amazing speaker. And it's a blessing that we can share this earth with somebody like Will. So without much further ado, here is Dr. Will Tuttle.
Thank you.
Hi, Will.
Thanks everyone for joining us. Great to be here. Thanks.
Well, it's so nice to see you again. I think this is our fifth talk. And I was joking with my wife the other day. I had plans of bringing on a myriad of other guests when I first started this one, but it's almost like I can turn these talks. I can title them Talks with Tuttle now instead of the Above the Horizon interviews, because this is our fifth one, and I'm just honored, and it's just great, and I'm so happy to have met you and been able to have these conversations. But yeah, today's theme is on creativity, everybody, and I wanted to read an excerpt from The World Peace Way. So the World Peace Way will, when did that release? When did that come out?
Yeah, this is it right here. The World Peace
Way.
Way.
It is.
It's my newest book. It came out just less than a year ago.
Oh,
and
great read.
Yeah.
It really builds on some of the lessons from the World Peace Diet and gives some kind of practical action-oriented notions throughout the book. But the excerpt I wanted to read is this. So I'll start with this to kind of give this interview kind of a little imbuing in an idea of the theme we're going to be talking about. When we create, we have unique possibilities to influence others throughout the web of relations. And this is an elevated calling. So I was reading through it again this morning before our interview, and a few things popped out. That was a big one. And it's overseen, I feel like, a lot, Will, in our culture and in our current daily lives, in the hustle and bustle, and kind of falls beneath the cracks and is eclipsed by things of more capitalistic importance, etc. So when you wrote that, what was can you amplify on that a little bit for us to, I guess, kind of get us started with the video?
Right. Yeah. So the context of that statement, as you say, comes from the World Peace Way. The subtitle is 6 Keys to Health and Harmony for All. And so that's a practical approach. My other books are more philosophical, why it's so helpful to refrain from abusing animals and the many benefits that come from that to our health and to our society and to the environment and so forth, and spirituality. But this one, The World Peace Way, is a practical book. And the 6 keys are diet and spiritual practice and relationships and movement and exercise and connecting with nature. And the last one is creativity. So this is a key to health and harmony for all, one of the 6, creativity. And when I was writing there about it being an elevated calling, there was a lot going into that, really, that we can unpack. But basically, the underlying idea is that if we are engaged in something that's creative, then our whole body is given a reason to exist. Our body is a vehicle. Our physical body is a vehicle. And it's like I'm sitting here at a piano.
Oh, yeah. Oh, amazing.
So, that piano is an instrument, right? And it just sits there and doesn't do anything. And it would fall apart, right? I mean, it would eventually decay and rot and rust and everything else if it just sat here and no one ever came and took care of it and played it. It's meant to be used. And our body's the same way. And so if I'm living my life in a non-creative way, if I'm just simply trying to survive, going to the office for a paycheck so I can get enough food so I can feed my body and go on,
Yeah.
if there's no creative, unique gift that I'm bringing to the world, to others in some way, then the body, I think all the cells are going like, what the heck are we here for? We're supposed
Yeah.
to be like serving this being, because the underlying idea in everything that I write, it really comes out of my meditation practice. I was a Zen Buddhist monk in Korea back in the 1980s, and I've really spent my whole life looking within and trying to understand what it is that this is, that I am and we all are. And so the foundation is that what we are is infinite and eternal consciousness. We are not just a physical body, a thing, an object that was born and will die. We treat cows and pigs and chickens like they're just sacks of cement. We buy and sell them by the pound. That's because we have lost touch with our spirituality. We could never do that if we were actually awake to our spiritual nature, because we would see that in them. And when we see the
Yeah.
spiritual nature of another being, we naturally love and want and honor and respect them as sacred manifestation of life,
Yeah.
like we are. But we're raised in a culture where that is suppressed, and we're taught to just eat steaks and cheese and eggs and so forth, like we're just eating objects. And so not only do we destroy the creative impulse in these animals, and they do have creativity. That's the beautiful thing. Anyone who has companion animals know that there's someone in there, and they have a life. They're a manifestation of consciousness, and they have a creative capacity and a reason and a purpose for living. And we humans, with our beautiful instrument that we have tremendous capacities for creativity.
Yeah.
And when we are raised in a society that just discounts and suppresses the creativity of animals and of children, of all of us in many ways, because we're taught to fit in and to go along, to get along, and to get our reward by pleasing
Yeah.
authorities and trusting experts, instead of realizing that we ourselves are the greatest authority, really. Our own
Yeah.
consciousness is the greatest authority. So really, I think what vegan living is number one, questioning the official narratives in our society that lead to disease and domination and exploitation and conflict and environmental devastation, and questioning the root of that, which is animal agriculture. I call it herderism, this systematized abuse of animals for food and other products. And then to and the other aspect of veganism is not only questioning the official narratives, but also being a force for love and kindness and compassion and
Yeah.
respect for the sovereignty of all individual beings, not only animals, but human beings. So
Yeah.
for freedom, like medical freedom, for example, is really, we've been having big discussions about that lately, and
Yeah.
that's so
Yeah.
critical.
Yeah.
If we don't have freedom of speech and freedom of movement and freedom of bodily autonomy and freedom of assembly and religion, all these things, these fundamental freedoms, then what does that do? That basically represses our capacity to be creative, and we become just an object, a thing that is basically we become a consumer, essentially,
Yeah.
that our happiness will come from consuming, which is what we're taught. So creativity is the most important thing. But that idea that you mentioned, that it's an elevated calling, that's so important, because today, one of the things that really disturbs me actually quite a bit is how this creativity that we have within us, which is a beautiful gift from the infinite divine source of all life, is perverted into very dark things. Like we're creative in creating massive systems of surveillance and creating weapons that can wipe out everyone, and in
Yeah.
creating art. I mean, so much of this art
Big
is
factory
dark,
farms.
and
Yeah.
it kind of makes you feel small and ashamed, or afraid, insignificant.
Yeah.
And much of the music, so music is a creative expression. It has
Yeah.
violent words in there, and violent rhythms and violent sounds. And
Yeah.
these are the arts, are here for us as ways to raise our
Yeah.
consciousness, our vibration, to reach to higher and higher levels. And so for me, I remember one of the most wonderful things was I was like, as a little kid, I was born into a family where I was the oldest child and my father played the piano. And so I wanted, like anyone, I wanted to be like my father. I wanted to do what he did.
Yeah.
And he would come home from work and he would start the piano and he was good. He had his own dance band before he married to my mother. And he ran a chain of newspapers, so he was a writer. So here I am. I'm a writer. I'm a piano player.
Yeah.
But he was also someone who really questioned official narratives. I mean, he really taught me that. He didn't go
Yeah.
along with whatever anybody thought. He said, no, no, you got to make up your own mind. Don't ever believe anybody. And so that journalistic kind of
Yeah. Because he worked for the
curiosity.
paper, I think you mentioned,
Yeah,
something along those lines. Yeah.
he actually started his own newspaper. Actually, he
Oh,
bought
wow.
one. He bought one, but it was failing, and he built it up into like 13 newspapers.
How
So
interesting.
I was really raised in journalism in the sense that
Yeah.
there was reporters all around us, and himself was, and always writing editorials, and I was giving his opinion about everything.
Yeah. Yeah. And you
And
really steeped with the dynamics. Like you became
yeah,
familiar with these intradynamics that kind of proliferated out on an unfortunate basis many times.
well, but it was really a beautiful upbringing because we
Oh,
were at
yeah.
the nexus of all these forces. All the governmental officials wanted to talk to my father and try to get a
Yeah.
good impression on the newspaper, and all the businesses, they all advertised with my father. So every business owed my father money. So
Yeah.
like, well,
Oh,
we'll go
wow.
in and buy what you need and take it off the bill. They owe us money anyway. So there was this
Yeah.
kind of
Wow.
feeling. We didn't have a lot of money, but it was sort of like the businesses all owed my father money for advertising. It was kind of
Yeah.
an
How about that?
interesting dynamic, but
Yeah.
the idea of the journalism and like what is really true here. Let's report on this. Let's find out. And I think that's part of veganism. That's part of creativity too. To look at the world and try to figure it out. Right? What is this? What
Yeah.
is going on here? What is really going on?
Yeah,
It's
and instead
not
of
what we
following
think.
the
Oh,
directives and the orders, more so like you
yeah.
write, channeling into your deep inner wisdom, your inner guidance system, and having that be the nexus, the reference that you go to in discovering your creative gifts, instead of the 99% tribe effect where you just want to conform to what everybody else is doing.
Right, right,
That should be our creativity
right.
in
Yeah,
how we.
and there's two things involved really, I think, in creativity. One is the a capacity to develop an ability, right? I mean, I would love to be creative in music, but if I didn't have an ability, I would just kind of go, no, I wouldn't be able to do anything, right? So as
Yeah.
a kid, I wanted to be like my father. So he said, "Yeah, you can play like me. You can play. You can." He would sit down and just really play. He played mainly the standards from the 30s and 40s and 50s, and you
Oh,
know,
cool.
but it was great. But he said you just have to practice. So that to me is a key. That creativity requires practice. Whatever
Yeah.
we practice, we will become better at. And so,
Yeah.
unfortunately, in our society, we're taught to practice things that are not in our best interest, right? We're taught to practice disconnecting, right? Every time we eat animal foods, we practice don't make the connection. So we get really good at just going through our lives disconnecting all the time.
Yeah.
So the whole idea with veganism is practice connecting, practice making the connections. That's not a burger, that's a bee. See the being, right? So
Hmm.
whatever we practice. So I would have to write down on the piece of paper that we put up in the kitchen on the bulletin board, that I practice my 30 minutes or 45 minutes every day, and I would do my scales and whatever, and I
Oh,
got,
wow.
and he taught me. We had these books. We went through these books. Then at a certain point, he said, "Well, I think now you need a real teacher." I think when I was maybe seventh or eighth grade, so I had a woman, Mrs. Cook, and she taught me all the, Mozart and Beethoven and all that stuff. And then I became a
Oh,
church
wow.
organist in high school, so I was actually making money, play as a
Yeah.
musician. I was actually paid. This was back in 1974. I got $6 every Sunday
Oh,
for
wow.
playing the organ
Yeah.
in the local Methodist church. But
Yeah. I
it
read
was
about that.
all,
Yeah.
it was all still practicing and learning and refining the craft. And then when I went away to college in Maine, I wasn't a music major, but I took some courses. I thought I would take over my father's business. So I was learning writing and I was learning business. I was kind of focusing on that.
I see.
But I
So
did
that might
take,
have been the genesis of your creative kind of spirit, your
yeah,
spearheading, or I'm sorry, your writing spearheading and getting into that space. I see. I
right,
understand that now, I guess. That
right,
might have
right.
been
Yeah.
the beginning.
I,
Yeah,
I really got
I
into
see.
literature, into writing, and also, but I did take some courses in music. And so I deepened my understanding of harmony and how chords, how you have the tonic in relationships between these different frequencies. It's really important. And how that you have the subdominant and then you have the dominant, how there's this tension between the different vibrations, and there's major and minor, and create a
Wow.
deep
How do
feeling.
you do that with and talking? How do you do that? That's
So,
incredible.
so this understanding these relationships, and I remember right around that time is when I was a sophomore, junior, and senior, the latter part of my time at Colby College in Maine. I began to really dive into music. And I just said, I got rebellious. I said, I'm never going to play anything written by anybody else.
Oh, that's
Now it
wow.
comes through.
That's cool.
And I would sit, and my friend and I, we rented a cabin out on a lake in Maine in the middle of January. It was snow everywhere and ice. And, all the guys were out there ice fishing. And we got this piano out of one of the dormitories, and we somehow, with a friend, got it on the back of my convertible, and old GTO Pontiac, and we drove it out to this lake, and we put it in this cabin. And so I was sitting there on this piano, and I was just, and it was like I went into these ecstatic states. That's all I can say. Just it was like this. I could feel some kind of being that wanted to bring through healing music through
Like a
me.
conduit, like you were a conduit.
I was just a conduit. I would not, because I was starting to learn to meditate. And
Wow.
I was reading these books on meditation and Zen and yoga. And I started thinking, okay, I'm not going to think. I'm just going to let my hands move and see. And it was amazing what would come through. And people would listen. They go, whoa, what is this? And they were kind of like really interested in it. And they would have tears coming down. And
Yeah.
so I realized I was tapping into something really powerful. And so that really opened up doorways to spirituality, which led to my brother and I won't tell the whole story. We left home right after
Yeah.
college. We
Ed,
thought we'd
right? I
walk to
think Ed.
California. My brother Ed, yeah.
Yeah,
Today's his
yeah.
birthday, actually, September 8th.
Oh my
But
gosh.
anyway,
Happy birthday,
yeah,
Ed.
yeah.
That's awesome.
He turned 70. That's
Oh,
amazing.
very cool. That's awesome. That's
But
awesome.
I know. But yeah, we thought we'd walk to California. We ended up getting as far as Buffalo, walking south, and just meditating and ending up in a Zen center in Alabama. And then eventually I got
Yeah.
out to California. I was living in Tibetan Buddhist meditation centers, and I started going to local churches and just playing the piano again as a meditation. And it really just took off. People started asking me to play, and I started doing concerts. I started making the
Yeah.
first cassettes back in the days of cassettes. And really, even though ended up, being a Zen Buddhist monk in Korea, which really deepened it even more. Everything I did with meditation deepened the music. It really helped. And
Yeah.
so when I came back to the United States and I got my PhD at Berkeley, I taught college courses mainly in philosophy, but I also taught college courses in music, actually. They asked me to since
Oh,
I was a
wow.
musician. And so this whole thing, that the point I want to make is that there was the practice and then there was the inspiration. See, without
Yeah.
without inspiration, I could be a great technician. I could play Bach and Beethoven and all that, and maybe
Yeah.
interpret it with feeling. But there's something else about composing music and letting new music come through.
Yeah.
And so whenever I play a concert, or even really whenever I play at all, but especially when I'm playing a concert, I never just sit down and play. I always take a moment and just feel into the great responsibility it is to be a conduit, to be a creative express, to give a creative
Yeah.
expression, and to just commit that this will be for the highest good of everyone concerned. And I think
You
when we
know,
use creativity in that way, then we
yeah.
can kind of get out of the way and let something come through that's uplifting
Yeah,
and
that's
helpful.
perfect. If I could read this expert excerpt that reflects what you just said, it's from the World Peace Way perfectly. And I'm glad that you kind of broached right into this precise space. But you mentioned in the chapter on creativity, uh, In many ways, what appears to be creativity is more accurately understood as learning to get out of the way and to be a faithful instrument for a higher power to flow through. And in this, the apparent recipients are also co-creators or co-conduits as well. And I think that really just hammers home what you just said. It's kind of like that easing of thinking and control and just yielding to the kind of the consciousness, our consciousness, and letting things flow. So that was really well put.
Yeah, and the thing is, when I was first starting to really manifest, I was living in San Francisco, and I started doing these little concerts around. And I remember I wouldn't know what I was going to do. I'd just say, all right, I'm just going to sit down and play, and we'd have a few people there, and I'd be playing in one of these little places that had a piano, little hall, and I remember like going on playing, and I could really feel the spirit coming through. And then as I was playing, sometimes it would happen that suddenly the music would change, and I could feel someone had come into the room. Someone had entered the room, and now the music was really different. And I would be like, who the heck was that? I could feel it deepening or moving in a different way. And I would finish up, and I'd look over, and I could see that's that person that they really affected it. And so I think there's no such thing as just passive bystanders. We're all co-creating reality. That's what science, the uncertainty principle, when to observe something is to change it. It really is true. I could feel it as a musician that when people are really into the music and deeply, I could go much deeper. If people are distracted and so forth, it's harder, So we have a dynamic, and I think live music, like anything that's alive, it's a force, and it radiates far greater than we can imagine into the people, and maybe beyond that into levels that our materialistic science can't even begin to understand, that we're all interconnected on this earth. The whole humanity is interconnected through fields of consciousness. And so music, like even this conversation, like certain people will listen to it on the recording, but what we're saying is also going out into a field of consciousness. And even though we're taught as little kids, no, that's not true. Everything is just matter, and consciousness just comes out of a brain. And when you die, that's the end of it. That whole thing, that's a philosophy for slaves. That's how you enslave people, is you get them to think that this is all there is, and you better just do what we say and buy what you can to get by and pass on your genes, because there's no meaning to anything. That's really a hideous philosophy, but that's the philosophy of animal agriculture, because that's what we do to billions of animals. We steal their purposes, and so it creates a very, I would say, harmful creativity. Right? We have cities that have ugly architecture and ugly art and ugly music and ugly drama and ugly movies,
violence,
celebrating violence and division and this kind of sexualization of children and of celebrities, and turning everything into something that's perverted in many ways. So that comes out of the perversion, I think, of animal agriculture and the violence of that. And so creativity is herderism, right? So creativity is a beautiful antidote, really, when we connect with it in an elevated way, to raise our awareness, to make beauty. It's really about beauty.
Absolutely.
Beauty.
Yeah, and your gifts that you've shared are writing, music, speaking, being an animal rights activist, and those paintings behind you on the wall. Who are those? Madeline's?
Oh yeah.
Oh, that is so cool.
Filled with her paintings everywhere.
Yeah, and she's just a wonderful artist. I'm assuming that she drew this.
Oh yeah,
I knew it. Very cool. And I think I saw it a while ago, but I had kind of since forgotten. But she uses art in cooking and many other things as far as her creative expression. One thing about me, not many people know, is that I wanted to be an actor for a while, and I went to LA. And I've always had a kind of a zest for performing. Before I went out there, I did stage acting. I did a little bit of voice work. I did some extra type stuff. I kind of found a beautiful platform, I thought, that would be an amazing place to, I thought, foster a career and maybe work in. But I've always had a zest for being a thespian and being on stage. And I've
Right.
been out to LA twice. I went once by myself, and I was with my beautiful wife at the time before we were married, but I went by myself first. And this was, I don't know, 15 years ago. And I came back, realized it was too much. I needed more resource, and I wanted kind of her to be with me too. I went back again. And this time we had, some money we saved up. We had a nice place. We had a place lined up. We'll say a place lined up. And I kind of proceeded to kind of get into that space. And it didn't take me too long, Will, to understand that the backdrop, the energy vibrations, the field was not syncing with my vibrations. It wasn't something I could see myself being involved in for a period of years, because intuitively, and I feel like at that time, intuitively, I did realize that there was a lot of mischief behind all the networking and all the quid pro quo and everything that really determines if you're going to be successful as an actor in in LA. But the cool thing is now, I'm running a channel and we're doing spirituality, vegan activism, talking about health, and I get to use my my apparent creative gifts to foster and to do something like this. So, one of the things you mentioned, and I guess I wrote a question down. I guess it kind of has to do with it. The question was, what role does compassion play in aligning our creativity with our higher purpose? What would you say the role is of compassion and in finding your gifts and using them towards, I guess, more so, the greater of all beings, the greater good of all beings?
Yeah. Well, compassion is really, I think, in many ways, the highest form of love, because it's not merely wanting the best for others. It's the yearning to act, to actually relieve their suffering and help them. So to me, creativity is the action of compassion.
Yeah.
Love is somewhat passive in a sense. I mean, we love, I mean, it's great, being loving. But to actually act, to bring it into some kind of a form. And it can be as an action, creative action, a speech, say something to someone, give them something, or create something for the community, a drama, like you say, create a play, an uplifting story, a book, a piece of art or music. But all of it, I think, is really, ultimately, we're here on this planet, I think, to learn compassion.
Yeah.
That's probably the one greatest. If you had to put it in a nutshell, it would be to learn compassion, because that is wisdom. Wisdom and compassion really are two sides, I think, of the same coin. Wisdom is the understanding that one life lives through all of us.
Yeah, we are all the self.
Yeah, and when we understand that, we can no longer just say, "Well, I like bacon," or whatever.
Right?
We're not there.
Yeah.
I mean, we see that our actions matter. Our actions really matter. And the beautiful thing about creativity is that it's, in a sense, divine. It's like the divine creates. And so when we're being creative, we're tapping into that power. And it's in our society, though, I think it's really important that we do the inner work so that our actions come from compassion and not from wanting to make some money. I mean, making some money isn't bad, but to, like you were saying, like you felt in LA, like that was a challenge for us, for me. It's like I had all this creative exuberance, but what do I played for a while at a restaurant in Oakland,
Oh,
and
wow.
it was sort of like, not really. It was some people it really touched them, but it was mostly like background music.
I
So then I
see.
started using. I went over. I became involved in citizen diplomacy with Soviet Union.
Ah, I read
Soviet
about that.
Union,
That's in there too.
yeah,
That's in the book.
and
Yeah.
they were the evil empire, and we were fighting. So I got involved. We brought people from the Soviet Union over to the United States. We planted a peace garden in Golden Gate Park in San Francisco with all these
Oh, wow.
Soviet Union kids, and then I went over twice to the Soviet Union and did concerts for peace, which was an amazing. I mean, I remember at one point I played in Armenia, but was it was part of the Soviet Union. And
Oh, wow.
I flew into Yerevan, and then I played in Leninakan was the name of the city, and they, the local peace activists, whatever, they were trying to figure out a way to get an audience for this guy from California,
Yeah.
and so what they figured out was there was a rock and roll band that was playing a concert, and they had a lot of people. They had like I don't know, a few thousand people in
Oh,
this
cool.
big hall. And the rock and roll concert was over, and they brought me out on the stage. And well, we have a piano player from California. He wants to play a piece of music for peace. And so they
Yeah.
were all sitting, all these rock and roll young people, but they had a grand piano there. And so I
Oh,
just
wow.
sat down and I just played like I do. I just played my heart out. And when
Yeah.
I finished, they didn't just applaud, they started applauding like rhythmically. Boom, the whole place, it was
Oh,
really
that's
intense.
cool.
They loved it so much. So when they finished, I sat down and played another one. And then they did it again rhythmically, and then I did a third one and they did it. And so that we all went like, we got so high, I think. And I
Yeah.
had this feeling like, that kind of energy, it goes beyond the place. It plants seeds of peace and harmony and joy and freedom, because we realized even though our governments were fighting each other and hating
Yeah.
each other and saying bad things about each other, we were people through the language, the universal language of music, of creativity, who loved each other.
Unified.
We saw
Yeah.
we have the same goals and aspirations, and we can make
Just
peace. That's how we make
unified.
peace,
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
those
through
fleeting
beauty.
moments are a tell to what's really underneath and like our true nature. I think those
Hmm.
fleeting moments kind of give a glimmer of
Right.
that unity. Wow, what a cool story! I'm reading that like, of course, only Will Tuttle can bring two nations together with music. Of course, he did
Yeah.
that at a certain point in his life. I just thought that was a cool story. Um, what would you say to the people that maybe think like they're hearing all this and they're like, okay, I don't really, I feel kind of disconnected. I feel like I don't have too many creative gifts, or they don't believe they're a creative type. Um, what would you say to them that might be listening and that are really interested? They want to, they want to take part in this kind of ceremony, but they have this feeling.
Right. Well, I think that's a really good question, because in many ways in our society, our natural creativity is pretty stifled in many ways, unless we have a nurturing family maybe that encourages us to try out different things and try out
Yeah,
painting and try out writing and poetry and music and dance movement. So very often maybe we're told, oh, you don't have any ability, you can't do anything. And so a lot of people are kind of ashamed, or just feel kind of blocked. So I think it's really helpful to just start where you are, wherever it is, and just tune in and just feel, what is it I kind of love to do,
yeah,
and feel what that is. If it's more musical, dance, flowing, or more expressive arts, or maybe more just writing in a journal and just
yeah.
start writing. I call it people call it automatic writing. Just write and just see what comes out.
Oh,
What
yes.
would I like to
Yeah,
do? And sometimes the unconscious or the deeper part of our conscious mind will give us some ideas that way or through dreams. But there's lots, people have so many amazing gifts, and it can be anything. It can be
yeah.
athletics too, or it can be gardening or something, working with
Cooking and
all
yeah,
kinds of different possibilities, conversations, even
yeah,
humor. Humor is tremendously creative.
yeah.
We
Very
we need
true.
more of that. I
Very
mean,
true.
there's so many possible avenues, and a lot of people get blocked because they think, well, how can I make any money at that, right? We're always worried about making money,
Yes.
and
I'm
I
glad you
think
brought that up. I forgot. I wanted to, yeah, touch on that. But yeah,
well, that's what for me, I thought. I'll never make money as a musician. Nobody makes money. You have all these starving musicians, starving
Yeah.
artists, starving musicians. But the funny thing is, what I did was even though I got my PhD at Berkeley, I taught college. I loved it. It was great. I did that for quite a few years, in philosophy mainly. But I started thinking it would be great to just make a living as a musician. And I started just doing one act every day, just one little symbolic act every day. Just do some, send out a letter to some buddy saying I could come and do a concert there, or just some little thing. And slowly but surely over the next couple of years, it just started happening and grew to the point where I resigned my teaching position, even though it was great. I loved it in San Francisco. I was teaching, I had a full-time job. But I
Yeah.
just thought, I'm going to get out of the classroom, out of grading papers and the whole thing, and just be totally free. And I moved into a 1971 Volkswagen bus, and I lived in that for 3 years. And I traveled around the country, and I put on
So
workshops
cool.
on developing intuition and gave concerts. And it went,
Yeah.
I mean, it went well enough that I could buy gas and food and, get
Yeah.
along.
And that goes back to the
And
practice, like the
the practice,
practicing,
right?
the habit of continuing to foster and grow and
Yeah.
do something towards it. And it sounds like it
Well,
organically unfolded
but
for
it's
you.
also, besides that, it's like taking a leap, right? I mean, I had to
Yeah.
really take a leap. Like I had to say, okay, I'm gonna resign my secure teaching job. I mean, they even offered me more money and everything. And I said, nope, and I left and I had my Volkswagen bus. I didn't have any security, but I just had a feeling that it would
Yeah.
work. And so I booked through kind of like progressive churches because I didn't want to play in bars and things. I thought,
Oh, the
and
unity.
so
Yeah.
kind of unity, religious science it was called then, Unitarian churches, and I would come in and do something, and slowly but surely it unfolded. And then the other thing that kind of contributed, I think I talk about it in the book, was this ability to tune into an individual and create an individual piece of music for them. I started doing those, and that really helped. And then when Madeline
Yeah.
came over, she's an intuitive artist. So we started creating music and art portraits where I would sit down with someone for half an hour and play and let their spirit pull the
Oh,
music
yeah.
out of
That's
me.
right.
And while I
Yeah.
was
What a
playing,
combo.
we'd make a cassette. And then later when the
Yeah.
technology changed, we'd make a CD and give it to them. And Madeline would do a painting and give that to them. And we did hundreds of these. I mean, many, many hundreds. We did
Yeah.
so many. We just traveled the whole United States in this Volkswagen bus and
Incredible.
gave and provided. And people just loved them. They had their own music because the whole idea is that
Yeah.
each one of us has our own unique rhythms, our own unique melodies and harmonies. And when we hear
Yeah.
that, it's just a great thing. So we've
Yeah.
done those so much, and it's really
And
been wonderful.
producing like monetary income off of that in that
Yeah.
dynamic, in that benevolent way. If only, a kind of more partnership oriented system was at play rather than this kind of predatory competition based system of which we live in. And that is how we kind of created abundance, if only. But we still have the autonomy as individuals
Yeah.
to think outside the box and do something like that. And it's our fleeting period of time. We're only alive one time, and these years are fleeting. So I mean, that I think is just like the example right there of how to live. And I just can imagine just beautiful worlds emerging if different systems tilted to something more of a partnership based society where
Right.
these were the kinds of things that were really
Well,
um,
that's a
yeah.
good point. I just want to add to that quickly that each one of us can contribute to that
Yeah.
by creating a liberated space wherever we are. Like we have where we live, we call it a space of love. And
Oh,
we have a
cool.
half an acre here, and we have like 80 fruit and nut trees out here. We grow our own food and
Oh
and
yeah,
so
I've
forth.
seen it. I'm
And when we
jealous
and when
of,
yeah,
the
and when
food
we
forest.
travel, like we lived in an RV for 17 years, traveling
Yeah.
around. And the whole idea was, well, we work together with others, but it's about freedom. It's about the freedom that we have. We did everything by donation. We didn't say you have to give us this much. We said just whatever, you give a donation. And we
That's amazing.
so we just did everything on donation, and with over the years, as time went
Yeah.
on, and we saved up enough money that we bought a house, and I've
Yeah.
never borrowed a penny in my life. It's
Oh,
just
that's it. Oh, yeah, I knew
we
that
just
too. Yeah, I
I
didn't have to have you tell me that to already know that. Yeah, because it's like it really is. You're chained. You're really controlled. When
yeah, if you
you're in
owe
that
money,
situation.
I know.
Yeah,
So it's
yeah. Well,
freedom is
that's
really important, yeah, for
freedom.
us.
Yep, it's
Yeah.
a big thing. And people going around, yeah, okay, oh, look at me. I'm making 100, 200, 300K. Look at me. Look at this. Look at my material. Look at blah, 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 blah. But then it's like underneath everything, you don't have freedom because you gotta hit that big number every month. And if you don't, ooh, the fear mongers will be out for you. Ooh, you better
Yeah.
do it or they're going to be come knocking at your door. And that fear is potent and palpable. I would even
Right.
say. But yeah, I mean, I think this has been a great discourse in creativity, and I hope it motivates people to find their creative gifts and even apply it towards speaking up for the animals in any way, shape, or form, from cooking to doing talks, writing books.
Yeah,
Um,
that's a good point. We can in the movement to liberate animals and people, we need creativity,
yeah,
poems, books,
yeah, everybody's
art,
gifts.
music,
Yeah,
talks, whatever, humor. There's always
yeah.
an angle,
So really,
especially with videos, you can do all kinds of things.
oh
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, it's a very multifaceted space. And even like little niche ideas, like someone told me not too long ago that they wear a pin that says asking me why I'm vegan and it's like on the
Yeah,
back of their shirt. So when they're in lines, it just kind of naturally blooms like a little healthy
right.
conversation. I thought that was really neat. But just little things and being that shining light like you talk about in your books and being that example and things like that.
Yeah.
Do you think you could play us a little piano before we
Well,
kind of
yeah, I
simmer
think,
down, just like something?
I was just gonna, I mean, yeah, I have many CDs out. You can go to iTunes or Google Play or any of these. You can get Will Tuttle. Also,
Okay,
Madeline plays the flute, so there's Will and Madeline also on
okay,
a couple
and on your
albums.
website too, right? On
On our
also on
website,
iTunes
yeah,
and on worldpeacediet.com.
worldpeacediet.com or willtuttle.com. Sure.
Okay,
And I
okay,
just
good to
think
know.
I'll just maybe play, this idea just of we have these two forces, the major, which is the more, and then the minor, right? And that's how our life is, right? There's times when we're opening up to life and the beauty of life and everything and the adventure. And then there's times when we have challenges and fear and difficulties. And one of the great powers, I think, of art and especially in music is the tension between these forces and how they can resolve, to find resolution on a higher level. And so you can
Yeah.
modulate into other keys. But I'll just play, for example, this is actually a well-known tune. This is not something that I wrote. It's Pachelbel's Canon in D. But this is probably over half the weddings in the United States. They play this music, and I think it's
Oh, wow.
because it really encapsulates what a relationship is, like a long-term marriage relationship. It has all this positive. Then there's always the challenges. But then you get through it.
Wow, you can really feel the.
Sometimes you have to just modulate.
Yeah, wow.
So
like you're not even trying it one smidgen. It's like it's so just, it just goes.
Yeah, I mean,
Wow.
I've been playing the piano since I was born, practically. So,
Yeah. Oh,
but
amazing. Thank you for
it's
that. Yeah, you
really,
could feel kind of some volatility in there, some ebbs and flows, and they're pretty
yeah.
marked.
Right. And I think that that understanding helps us so much to realize, to get sensitive to the vibrations of relationships in our lives, and to bring harmony, or to bring it to into a different key, to raise it to a higher channel, and also to see what's happening in the world, like how the powers that try to control us, they build up all this tension. You can build it up in music too. You can build up so much tension, like
Yeah.
you want to have it resolve. And then so then they say, they bring all this fear, for example, like,
Yeah.
oh gosh, we have all this, oh, we have germs and we have people spreading, but we have a vaccine, right? We have
Yeah.
something
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
we
So
can
they
resolve it, and
leverage it.
we
Yeah.
want that resolution, some kind of a resolution. And that's very
Yeah.
deep in the arts. You create, the basic situation, because that's what our life is. It's a series of tension and resolution.
Yeah.
And
Amazing to see
so,
music
yeah,
mirror that
it
and to
mirrors
music
that. Yeah.
reflect that. Incredible. It really is another language. It really is.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, I think one of the reasons some of these big apps, I won't say them, like really take off, and maybe the main one is because of the music factor. It's like people just connect. It
Right.
connects to them. And unfortunately, when it comes to certain apps, it's not the app makers don't necessarily have the person's greatest interests in mind,
No,
and they use
that,
music,
yeah,
you
right.
know.
No, that's really true. And music can really be used, like all the arts, to enslave people. You can use it
Yeah,
to liberate, you can use it to enslave. And right now,
that's such a
the
power.
way the corporations have dominated the music industry and the art and architecture, everything, it's used pretty much to enslave us.
Yeah,
So it's good to be aware of that. And that then you can put up your defenses, make sure you have music that's inspiring and uplifting,
yeah,
that for you, and images that are like that, and create a space of beauty wherever you go. Wherever we go, we can do
yeah.
that. That's a beautiful thing.
Well, that's awesome. Yeah, I actually on the cover to the thumbnail, I called this one another questioning narratives, and it would be, I guess we would say it questions the narrative of following the blueprint that's given to you from birth, and instead looking into your intuition to channel and foster your gifts, and let that be your life purpose, not what some corporate entity wants you to do for 40
Oh,
years. So it's been,
yeah, it's so important. If we're not creative, if we're not
yeah,
somehow fulfilling a creative uh,
yeah,
purpose that's bigger than just this little selfish self,
yeah.
then I think we end up getting addicted to things that are not healthy, either substances or relationships, or media that's very harmful. To stay out of that kind of addiction, we create,
Yeah,
and as we create, we're fulfilling our purpose in our own
yeah,
unique way. Yeah.
and it really is.
Thank you,
It
James,
is.
for doing it yourself.
Oh,
Really
oh,
appreciate
100%.
it.
Thank you for being the example, and I'm just happy to have you in all these conversations. Five live streams ago, Will, and I had no idea that this would be our fifth one. I was so excited to be talking to you. I, I have a tendency to, I really, my wife knows I really like you a lot, and you're one of my, yeah, definitely, I would say, a big hero of mine. So in the beginning, it was like, oh my God, he's talking to me, and I can't believe I'm your friend now. And it's just been a beautiful year. I think I've watched the channel grow a lot. I've been able to do a lot more outreach and integrate your wisdom into my outreach, and it's just been awesome. And I can't wait to do some more, live
Great.
streams. This chapter was a great one. And remember, The World Peace Way is the name of the book from which we really talked out of today, everybody. Definitely check that out. The World Peace Way. You got to get the World Peace Diet. Every vegan and non-vegan
Yeah.
needs to get this book. This just lets you see through the veil, so that you see on the other side of the veil, and gives you a deep understanding of the whys behind our current contextual world and our capitalistic world, and helps you to see where your heart really is.
Right.
because a lot of that is suppressed, unfortunately. But the World Peace Way, World Peace Diet, Your Inner Islands. I still have yet to read that, Will, and I've been talking a lot about intuition on my channel.
Yeah.
Basically, referencing your work. But I think it's my duty to read this book pretty soon as well. And then Food for Freedom. Big one. We talked about climate change and how it's used as a tool in our last one. And
Yeah.
yeah, it's great to see this message starting to get some more momentum as well.
Right.
I've seen,
Right.
you do a few other interviews or one other interview on it. And it was very heartwarming to see that you're getting the word out on that as well. But yeah, so thank you, Will. And did you have anything else you wanted to tell everybody?
Yeah, no, I think this has been fantastic. I mean, I think underlying everything really is this yearning to live a life of authenticity
Yes.
and of meaning for each one of us. We're only on this earth for a few short decades. It goes by really quickly. And what you're doing, James, I think to just embrace the challenges of living in a society where we're basically compelled to eat animal foods and to somehow raise our awareness out of that and then to share this message with other people in a way that is uplifting,
Yeah.
respects them. And that is a life well lived, however we do it. We each have
Yep.
our own
Yep.
unique piece of the puzzle to contribute. And I'm really glad we focused on creativity this time. And
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to another session. Definitely.
Yeah. One last thing I wanted to say to everybody watching. If you go to the worldpeacediet.com, I believe that's where this is.
Yeah.
Will wrote a writing called Boats Returning Home.
Oh, yeah.
And
Yeah.
this also comes from a very creative place, obviously. And I've been talking more about spirituality on my channel, my kind of learnings through everything. And Boats Returning Home kind of points to our true nature, and it has to do with what's the song?
Row,
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 row
row
your
your
boat.
boat song that
Yeah.
you mentioned kind of hits you in your consciousness at a certain point, and then it just bloomed into this beautiful writing.
Right.
And
Right.
if the audience would like to learn more about spirituality and your true nature, this writing called Boats Returning Home, and you can find it on Will's website. It is on the worldpeacediet.com, right?
Yeah, what you do, just go to worldpeacediet.com and then just click on essays by Will, something like that. My
That's
essays,
right.
and then it's the most recent one. I just put
Yeah.
it up a couple of
Oh
weeks ago.
man, it just hits. It hits on every level. So I'm glad I remembered to mention that. But yes, okay. Well,
All right.
we'll look forward to the next adventure and the next live stream. And it's really been an honor and a pleasure as always. And
Thank
I
you.
hope you have a great rest of your day, Will.
Thanks, everyone. Thank you so much, James. Definitely. Same to
All right,
you.
everybody. Take care.